everybody, welcome back to one of the final parts of this tutorial series, and in this part we're going to be focusing on drawing her hair, and we're just mainly going to be using the 2B charcoal pencil for this. I'm also introducing a new paintbrush into the supply list, and this is the Daler Rowney Filbert brush. So this is going to be really good for once we've added in all of the charcoal, all of the sort of main dark shadows, we can use this to actually sweep and blend the charcoal onto some of those more mid-toned areas. And then we'll be using the actual Tombow Mono Eraser for the highlights. So let's start over on this side, and because I am going to be obviously adding a lot of charcoal, it can be easy then to smudge it. So I'm going to try and keep my wrist off the actual paper so I'm preventing smudging. So the first thing that I'm doing is just going in with that 2B pencil, and I'm using this to block in first the darkest areas. So I'm not using this on the mid-toned areas yet, I'm just using this for the darkest areas for now. Because like I said, we are going to be using our brush to apply some of the charcoal powder onto those more mid-toned areas. So even though we're leaving the mid-toned areas white for now, they won't stay that way once we've blended it out. I'm looking at the direction the hair is going in. That's really important when you're drawing hair. And I'm applying the pencil in lines rather than lots of little circular motions. I'm adding more charcoal where it is darker, where it's pretty much just black. I'm only going to rest my wrist down where the area it's resting on is clean, because I'm trying to avoid picking up any excess charcoal. To prevent the smudging. If you do smudge a bit of the charcoal, then don't worry too much, because you can go in with things like kneaded erasers and just normal erasers just to go in and clean that up. But it's always best to try and avoid it, because, for example, if you do it quite heavily, then you might not be able to lift it off completely if you really smudge it into the paper. Also, you don't need to copy the hair exactly. It doesn't need to be as severe as every single hair being in the exact same place. I'm just looking for the general gist of where the shadows are, where the highlights are, and sort of where any flyaway hairs are. Any important key features of how the hair overlaps. So I always try to find a direction for the hair to go in rather than just scribbling and, you know, shading it all in like that, back and forth. I always try to find which direction the hair's going in. But if it is really dark and it's just impossible to figure out what direction the hair is going in, then you can just shade it in like a block shape if you really can't find a direction. Like here, it's a bit hard to see, so I'm just shading all that in. But then you can see that it's curving up. You've got hair overlapping onto the area. When you draw your sketch outline, try not to just draw like the actual outline for the hair. Try to get in the sections so you know the direction the hair's going in. It will make it a bit easier when it comes to doing the shading if you've already got the general direction of the hair blocked in. Don't worry too much if your charcoal pencil is becoming blunt as you do this. There's not really any need to go and sharpen it and keep it really sharp at every point at this stage. As we start to add more details and finalise the hair and add flyaway hairs, then it's more important to keep it nice and sharp. So nearly done with this part. Once we go in with the actual brush, it will become a bit lighter, so we will have to go and add more of the charcoal. But this stage is, like I said, just about getting all of the sections of hair blocked in, you know, all of the shadows where they're meant to be, and then we can add more and more layers. so I'm just looking around. Is there any areas that I need to add more charcoal to? I really want to add more charcoal to any areas that are pretty much jet black, because I know I'm going to have to anyway. So I might as well get the most out of this charcoal before I have to sharpen it up. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my filbert brush and just start to blend this. And as you will see pretty much straight away, it really nicely blends and adds that mid-tone value to all of the other sections. So we've got our shadows in and we're getting our mid-tones in, and it's going to be really easy then to pull up the highlights. So I'm just going to go and do this around the whole of the hair. This paintbrush, the filbert one, is a lot better for doing this than the other one that I was using, the round brush, because it is stiffer. It's just a lot better for this. I am going to be using the brush in the direction that the hair is going in. Take your time with this, try not to be too messy. Can blow away the excess charcoal. I like to just blend it into all of the grain of the paper. Just really get the paper to hold on to the charcoal. So I'm going to do this side as well. And you can just see how easy it is to blend the charcoal. And it doesn't have to be too messy if you really just be careful where you're putting your wrist. And don't be really aggressive with the blending at this point. Go nice and slow and softly. So as you can see, it hasn't took too long to blend everything out. You will get a bit of excess charcoal. Just blending out very carefully these thin bits of hair. So now I'm just blowing away all of the excess charcoal. And also use the brush just to wipe it away. And finally I'm going in with the kneaded eraser just to clean up the edge of the hair. Okay, so now we've got everything blended. I'm just going to sharpen my 2B charcoal pencil and just use it to add in some of the darkest bits. Okay. So for example, up here needs to be a lot darker. At the roots. So I'm adding a lot more shadow by the roots. So I'm using lighter pencil strokes just to get in some darker hairs within the mid-toned areas. I'm adding a lot more of the shadow down here under this sort of area. There isn't too much mid-tone value, it's all pretty dark. So now I'm going to go in with the blending stump. Just lightly blend over this. And actually I'm going to use my fingers to blend it. Try and keep it as dark as possible so that we don't have to add another layer. So now I'm going to go in with my Tombow Mono Eraser and start to create some of these highlights. So firstly, I'm looking at the front. Some of these highlights might be bright, some might just be quite subtle. So you can go back in with your finger to go over any of the highlights that need to be toned down a bit, that aren't really that bright. So just look at your reference photo and look for all of the lightest areas. Adding lots of little thin hairs. I'm going to add a little bit more pressure for some of these brightest highlights, just to get them nice and bright. I'm just adding a bit more shading with my finger on this part, but we'll keep this side nice and bright, nice and highlighted. Add some thin flyaway bits of hair, quite randomly. going to blow away all of the bits. Clean up the edge of the face. So now I'm going to wipe away all of the bits that I can without smudging anything. Also blow them away. And I'm going in with my kneaded eraser and just cleaning up the area again. But the smudges are really, really light, so that means that they will fully erase. It can be hard to completely prevent smudging, but you just need to know how to deal with it if it does come up and how not to make it worse. Get rid of all of these bits. Just want to go in my finger and the charcoal pencil, just add a couple more shadows. Adding a bit of a more intense shadow for the earring. So I'll just soften that piece and then wiped away with the kneaded eraser any of the smudged charcoal. Okay, so now I want to go in with my 2H pencil and start to add in some of these flyaway hairs, because this is a lot harder. It's easier to get detail with this one. So I just really want to break up the uniformed look of the hair with these flyaway ones. Okay, so I'm happy with the hair for now, and just add these little few ones going over the face. And so now I just want to look at the whole portrait as a whole and see if there's anything else that I want to adjust, anything else that I need to tweak. I want to add in some more highlights, so I'm just going to chop the end off of my eraser and just go over everywhere and just add in the bright highlights again, just to brighten everything up. Anyway guys, that is pretty much it for this portrait. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial series. So if you did, let me know what you enjoyed, what you learnt, and if you like this technique. I think this is the first series where I did a portrait just in charcoal. So let me know if you want to see more tutorials like this in the future. Also, if you did have a go at this tutorial series, then please post your finished artwork to the community tab. I'd love to have a look at what you create. And even if you don't do this exact image, if you do something else using the techniques, then please send them in. I love it. I love seeing you guys progress and improve and seeing what you create. So yeah, that is it for this tutorial series, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye everybody.